So far we have studied some thermoplastics and some thermosets, and we know that thermosets are branched structure. They are more rigorous in their properties, including thermal properties and mechanical properties. But there is a set of polymers available which are also useful for very high temperature applications, including space, uh, and a lot of scientific applications where high temperatures are involved. Even in automotives, where the temperature may rise, a lot of uh, gaskets which can take a lot of temperature are used. So high temperature polymers are such a category, and these high temperature polymers are also called high performance plastics. And these high performance plastics are especially designed for their applications in engineering field, including mostly related to transportation and space. Because of their special processing and additives, a lot of new additives are added. The cost of such polymers are considerably higher than other regular polymers. If I talk about high performance plastics or polymers, then high performance plastics are not only superior in thermal properties but are also superior in mechanical properties and chemical properties, in the way that they are mostly chemically inert to most of the other materials. These properties actually make them special for different purpose. However, it is not always necessary that a plastic which can take high temperature will also be able to sustain high mechanical load, or will always be chemically inert. Uh, in general, the plastics may take a load of less than 100 degrees centigrade without getting any deformation. But most of these high performance polymers, they can go significantly higher to more than 150 degrees centigrade. In fact, a lot of such high performance or high temperature polymers can take load up to 450 degrees centigrade. Uh, Here in this figure, you can see various kinds of polymers which fall into two categories. Like one is into the semi-crystalline and another one is completely amorphous. So among all these semi-crystalline polymers available, which actually means that some of their molecules are aligned in order, include PEEK, uh, that is a uh, that is a ketone plastic, and PEEK is one of the most common plastic which is used in high temperature applications. Similarly, PET, TPE, polypropylene, polyethylene tetraphthalate, uh, low density and very low density, these all fall into the category of semi-crystalline plastics. A recent development is among amorphous material which can take high temperature, and they include uh, polymers like PMMA, that is acrylic. Acrylic can take load of approximately 150 degrees centigrade without getting uh, deformed thermally. And at 150 degrees centigrade, uh, it starts deforming, but it does not uh, lose its properties related to mechanical or thermal significantly. Polyamide, that is PAI, polyamides are also one of the topmost amorphous polymer which have applications in high temperature gaskets. In fact, a lot of spacecraft parts which are supposed to take a lot of load are made of polyamides. Similarly, polypropylene and polyethylene sulfate, polycarbonate, these are all completely amorphous materials and they can take a lot of load. The new research in most of the plastics are into this domain only, that is in the domain of improving the mechanical properties and thermal stability. So a lot of research is being currently going on. Most of the newer plastics like uh, polypropylene sulfate and PES and PSU plastics, they are very commonly available and they are generally used in nuclear applications and missile technologies, spacecraft application. Some of them include sulfones. Okay, sulfones are nothing but they are a variety of sulfur. So sulfur, when added to certain polymer, can take a lot of load. In fact, the tires in your vehicles, they all have some kind of sulfur. That is why they can take a lot of thermal load. So polyether sulfones, polypropylene sulfate, all these materials, they were developed by different companies like General Electric, uh, some of these spacecraft agencies for high temperature applications only. So thermal stability is one of the most important requirement for high performance plastics. In some cases, it was also found that if a polymer is thermally stable, it means that it does not degrades at higher temperature. It also has sufficient mechanical properties. Some of the, in some cases, the mechanical properties and these thermal properties can be directly enhanced by doping or by increasing the degree of polymerization. It means that polymeric chain, the molecular chain becomes long, or we can add materials like carbon fibers, glass, uh, wooden floor in order to improve the thermal and mechanical properties. A lot of fluoropolymers that fluoropolymers are generally made by fluorocarbons and they can also take a lot of temperature. In some cases it's around 250 to 260 degrees centigrade without getting any thermal deformation. Also in the market there is a polymer available by the name of PTFE, and PTFE can also take a lot of thermal loads, and in fact most of the market applications where a lot of heat is involved, they are made by polytetrafluoroethylene, that is PTFE. They are also used as insulating polymers or insulating resins in various electronic applications. Now let's talk about polymers which are electrically conductive. In fact, a lot of new developments in electronics or ICs has been in the area of these electrically conductive polymers. These polymers that which can conduct electricity similar to metals. There are various advantages of using conductive polymers over over metals, since the weight of conductive polymer is very low compared to metals. They can significantly reduce the weight of overall product while doing the same job as metals. The electrical properties in the polymers, they can be added and they can be fine tuned by adding a definite quantity of dopants, which actually increases the electrical conductivity. So we can actually determine how much dopant is required to have how much of electrical conductivity. So a lot of dopants are available in order to increase the electrical conductivity of polymers. One of them is polymer black. Polymer blacks are added with, they are actually some kind of graphites, and these are added into the polymers in order to increase their conductivity. So in the market, a lot of polymers are available which are electrically conductive, like polyacetylene, uh, pyrrole, polyindole, and polyaniline, and a lot of their copolymers, which actually are main conductive polymers available in the market. A number of these electrically conductive polymers like polyalkylophenes, they are used as solar cells and transistors. These conductive polymers, they are very promising anti-static materials, and a lot of commercial displays, batteries, mobiles, they utilize the electrical conductivity of the plastics in order to enhance the overall product. The new age solar cells, which are based on these electrically conductive polymers, are much more efficient and have less weight, less cost when compared to metallic substrate or semiconductor substrate materials. In electronics like radars eh, or aircrafts, they all use a layer of conductive polymer in order to increase the electrical conductivity at the surface. Now let's talk about another important set of polymers, that is biodegradable plastics. Uh, now, about one third of the plastics produced today are used in disposable products like plastic bottles, beverage bottles, packaging, various garbage bags. And these plastics contribute about 10% of 10% or maybe more than that of total municipal solid waste. And on volume basis, they contribute like 2 to 3 times of their weight. So you can assume that how big is the problem of polymers or disposing polymers has become really a big problem. And with the growing use of plastics and simultaneously their increasing concern over environmental issues regarding the disposal of plastic products, also we have very limited landfills available. So these all factors, they are causing, or a lot of effort is being given in order to develop biodegradable plastics. Most of these plastics are traditionally made from synthetic polymers. So these synthetic polymers, whatever plastic we use, they are made of, in most of the cases, they are made of synthetic polymers. And these synthetic polymers are generally derived from non-renewable natural resources. Also, they do not biodegrade easily. Also, it is very, very tough to recycle them. So recycling is something which is going on, but uh, it's not very efficient till now, and a lot of effort is being made. Uh, Biodegradability simply means that there are some microbial species in the environment, maybe in soil and in water, and they will degrade either the whole plastic or the portion of this polymeric material under this normal environmental condition. And in this process, in this degrading process, they will not produce any toxic byproducts. So the polymers which can undergo degradation without producing any toxic products are called biodegradable plastics. Um, they are they degrade because because of their composition, all the molecules they get break down by the natural gases like carbon dioxide, nitrogen, maybe water, or maybe some kind of biomass. Biodegradable plastics are found both the naturally and synthetically made plastics can also be made biodegradable. Biodegradable plastics have a number of applications. Uh, including food and beverage sector is one of the most common uh, sector where the biodegradable polymers are used. Uh, in marine applications, a lot of where a lot of waste is there because it is particularly dangerous to marine lives. So biodegradable plastics have been made compulsory on in different marine applications wherever the polymers are required. Till now, there are three different biodegradable plastics. Biodegradable plastics have been developed on the basis of three systems. That is a starch-based system, lactic-based system, and organic acid-based system. So a plastic can be made biodegradable by using one of these. In starch-based system, which is actually the largest among all these three categories, and they have the largest production capacity in today's world, the starch can be extracted from potatoes, from wheat, from rice and corns. And in this starch-based system, starch granules are processed into the powder, which is heated and becomes a sticky liquid. Then we add various binders and additives in order to impart special characteristics of bioplastic material. And then this liquid is then cooled and formed into the pellets and processed in conventional uh, plastic processing equipment. So these are generally based on starch. In fact, a lot of polymers you use right now, they are made by starch-based system. It means that starch granules are made from potatoes, rice, corns, etc. In the lactic based system, the lactic acid granules are made by fermenting the corn or maybe some other feedstock which produce lactic acid. And then this lactic acid granules are polymerized very similar to the starch granules in order to form polyester resins. In the third system, this organic acid system, the organic acids are actually added to sugar feedstock. And through a specially developed process, the resulting reaction produces a highly crystalline and very stiff polymer. And after certain processing, it behaves in a manner very similar to the polymers developed from petroleum. So a lot of effort has been made to produce fully biodegradable plastic by using various agricultural waste, plants, carbohydrate, plant proteins, or vegetable oils. One important discussion about biodegradable plastic is that the long range performance of biodegradable plastic, both during their useful life cycle as product and in the landfill, has not yet been fully assessed. And there is also a concern that if we emphasize the biodegradability, then it may divert attention from the issue of recyclability of the plastics. It means that whether biodegradable plastics are good or plastics which can be recycled is good. There is this big discussion going on whether we should make a plastic which can be recycled or which can be biodegradable. The biodegradable plastics have very high cost. At the same time, it requires a lot of natural resources. On the other hand, the recyclable plastics are those plastics which can be used multiple times by just melting them. So the major consideration is the fact that the cost of today's biodegradable polymer is substantially high than synthetic polymers. So therefore, a mixture of agricultural waste such as hulls from corn, wheat, rice, and soy, and biodegradable plastics as minor component is very attractive alternative in today's world. Uh,
Now let's talk about another important topic, that is recycling. So plastic recycling is the process of recovering this scrap or waste plastic and reprocessing the material into some useful products. Also, majority of the plastic is non-biodegradable. Recycling is a lot of uh, effort is has been made in past few years, which are um, into recycling of the plastics, and a lot of research is also going on in the recycling of the plastic. uh, a lot of money has been put into this, and government is giving number of funds in order to develop technologies through which plastics can be recycled. There is a certain advantage of doing recycling over making this biodegradable product, is that if the polymers can be recycled, it simply means that the same resource can be used again and again. So it's a saving of resource. The now here the waste is energy which is involved in processing of this of recycling. On the other hand, biodegradable plastics, biodegradability simply means that the polymers, once used, then we leave it to some landfill and it will degrade over certain time. But again, in order to make the new product, you need to have another natural resource and then you can make the product. But here, recycling, it means that we are using the same resource again and again. So recyclable plastics are very, very important uh, part of polymers in today's world. Recycled plastics are being increasingly used for a variety of products, including automotive body components, packaging materials, various architectural structural shapes. There are two important methods by which the recycling can be done. The one is the mechanical recycling, which is nothing but we cut the material. In short, we say it is chop and chop technique. Uh, or we cut the material and then wash it. We cut the material into, or we crush the material into some kind of device and then wash it. And then we convert it into the powders and then again melt it. The another form of recycling involves the chemical reaction. That type of recycling is called chemical recycling. And in this chemical recycling, the plastic is generally broken into various monomers using some chemicals. One of the most common recyclable plastic is PET. And the first thing in recycling process is sorting on the basis of the base resin. So initially they used to do resin based coding, that is RIC, and they short it using these on the basis of these RICs, but using just manual method, but that in many case was not very efficient process, because it was very, very difficult to identify the base resin of those materials.
Nowadays, in a lot of new methods like UV light based method or the laser light based methods are used in order to identify their base resin and then do shorting. So plastic shorting has now become a complicated process. Spectroscopic methods are also used, in which a lot of wavelengths of light is uh, is deposited on the surface, and then the absorbance of that surface or the transmittance of that surface is measured in order to calculate, in order to determine the base resin material. After shorting in mechanical recycling process, the shredding takes place, and shredding means just converting them into small parts or fragmenting them in order to reduce the impurities. If you have seen this triangular picture on the various plastics, on the basis of various plastics, then this triangular with the arrow shape, it actually shows that the plastic is recyclable. It is a sign of recyclability of the polymer. And they generally are coded with some kind of numerals like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, up to 7, they are available. So if it is coded with 1, it means that it is PET. And in most of the bottles which are made of PET, you can see this sign on the basis and the corresponding code. If it is written 01, it means that the bottle is made of PET and the bottle is completely recyclable. Similarly, polyethylene, high density polyethylene is coded as 02. Polyvinyl chloride is coded as 03. Polyethylene, low density polyethylene is coded as 04. Polypropylene is coded as 05. Uh, Polystyrene, that is PS, is coded as 6. So different polymers have different resin codes, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And accordingly, they are sorted and then they are put into different kinds of bins. So different bins, and then they are shredded, uh, chopped and washed and then melted in order to make fine granules. So this was all about polymers. In the next class, we will be starting with rubbers.